Hello, hello. Just getting started here, waiting to connect. Here we are streaming. All right, everything's working. All right, so welcome to From Success Principles to Properties. My name is Mike DelPrete, Executive Director of the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association, and today we are going over the book Success Principles, written by Jack Canfield. But before I do that, I got to get settled in. I got to open up my Celsius here because we're gonna have a nice conversation on success principles, how they got me, how this book has transformed my life, the way I think, the way I act, and what I do on a daily basis, which I read before becoming a business owner, entrepreneur. And I really think any business you get into, it starts with the mindset, how you think, how you act, who you hang out with. And these 64 principles from Jack Canfield's book, I read consistently over and over, and I read the stories and I applied each little step that he suggested. We're on uh, episode 31, transform your inner critic into your inner coach. So what are we telling ourselves every single day? So I'm trying to make sure I can see everything on my end. So if you have any questions, comments, or you want to make a statement, you could. I'll see you right here in the chat. I just like to make sure we're live, but I don't see it coming up. So sometimes I do this where I'm just talking to myself. And I always wanted everything perfect. Talking about inner critic, I would never want to touch this until I was perfectly set up and everything was working. Um, and that's just not the case all the time, right? So I can't even find my live right now on my own screen. So if someone sends a message, I could help out. So I'm just gonna have to wing it. Let's see. Here we go. All right, now I'm not crazy. So if you're just chiming in or you're watching the replay, fast forward a little bit. So I'll kick this off here. All right, Mike DelPrete, Executive Director of the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association, and today we are reviewing the book, The Success Principles. So I read verbatim from the book at certain parts of it. We're going to review 64 principles over time that have changed my life and the way I think. We're on episode 31, right? We're talking about transform your inner critic, and I'm going to share stories from my personal life, my business experience, my personal experience, my real estate experience, and hopefully between the principles and between the stories, between my personal experiences, this will put you one step ahead and help you beat the learning curve, or learn from a mistake that was already made by myself or something in the book, and allows you to skip that that pain or that loss, if that. So like I said, I just read straight from the book. So transform your inner critic. Researchers indicate that the average person, that means you, talks to himself or herself about 50,000 times a day. Now, keep in mind, this book's like 25 years old, so you can imagine some of these stats have changed at some level. And most of the self talk is about yourself. And according to psychology researchers, it is 80% negative. So out of 50,000 conversations with ourselves a day, 80% is negatives. Think things such as, I shouldn't have said that. They don't like me. I'm never going to be able to pull this off. I don't like the way my hair looks today. No hair. Says I wear a hat all the time, so I got my own issues. Um, that other team is gonna kill us. I can't dance. I'll never be a good skater. I'm not a good speaker. I'll never lose weight. I can't ever seem to get organized. I'm always late. Argue for your limitations. Oh, here's a quote. So there's a lot of great quotes in this book. I could just read the quotes in this book. Argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they'll be yours. Good one. Another nice little quote. A man is literally what he thinks. So true. So it says, we know from the research that these thoughts have powerful effects on us. They affect our attitude, our physiology, and our motivation to act. Our negative thoughts actually control our behavior. They make us stutter, spill things, forget our lines, break out in a sweat, breathe shallow, feel scared, and take into the extreme. They can paralyze or kill us. Those are your thoughts. What's another good one? Your thoughts create feelings, feelings create action. You got to just, especially if you're looking to get into real estate, everything is said in here, those 50,000 times you talk to each other, talk to yourself, and 80% are negative, you're probably saying things like, this is a scam, real estate isn't real, you really can't get rich like that, that guy on the course or the infomercial is fake or BS, my family says it's not true, I don't want to risk quitting my job, or I don't want to lose my job, or I don't want to look stupid if I try this new project and fail, or whatever it may be. You're running all those negative things about getting into real estate or business is what you're doing. And based on this quote, argue for your limitations and sure enough they'll be yours. So yeah, if you don't think you can do it, whether you think you're right or wrong, what is it, that quote? That quote, you're right, right? Um, so he has a bunch of stories where he drops in on this and goes into deep, like they're like, I'm not going to read all of it, right? So but he really gives you great examples. So I highly recommend getting the book Success Principles. You can find it online, Amazon, bookstore, wherever it is. Check out Jack Canfield's book. But these principles, little things like this. So if you're just jumping on, you just found this right now, you need to go back to episode 1 and watch every single one. I try to keep them under 30 minutes, 20 minutes. But every principle builds on top of each other. So it only gets stronger and stronger, and you start making more sense and more sense. So highly recommend going back to number 1 and starting there. And one at a time, one a day, one a week, one a month. I don't care. Watch one, read one, apply it. Go to number 2, right? Even if you have to, I remember, any type of skill that I've always tried to pick up or learn, you would have to practice, like sales. If there were certain techniques or ways of handling conversations with homeowners, I would take one lesson that I learned from an expert or a coach or a mentor I had, and then I would all week, like I would be conscious of that skill, because right at first you're just conscious of it. You're like, I'm not good at this, and here's the skill I'm trying to learn. All right, I'm going to say this skill every single day to every single homeowner or every single investor or whatever it is that you're working on, and even until we get the marbles out of our mouth is what we call it. So you want to say it so much where it becomes natural, and then you start doing it so much, you might use it wrong at first, then you'll start getting better at using it. You'll start fitting these pieces of the conversation, this technique or whatever it is, in the right places, and it starts coming natural. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while to actually perfect. So you're always practicing these new skills. So all 64, we'll go through them. We're on 31. So go back and learn the other ones. So inner critics, we're 80% of the day we're talking negative to ourselves. We also know from a polygraph lie detector test that your body reacts to your thoughts, changing your temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, breathing rate, muscle tension, and how much your hands sweat. When you're hooked up to the lie detector and are asked a question such as, did you take the money? Your hands will get colder, your heart will beat faster, your blood pressure will go up, your breathing will be faster, your muscles will get tighter, and your hands will sweat. If you did take the money and you lie about it, these physiological changes occur not only when you're lying, but also in reaction to every thought you think. Every cell in your body is affected by every thought you have. Negative thoughts affect your body negatively, weakening you, making you sweat, making you uptight. Positive thoughts affect your body in a positive way, making you more relaxed, centered, and alert. Positive thoughts will cause endorphins in the brain and will reduce pain and increase pleasure. So simple things like that. Why don't we just, it's that easy. Negative thoughts, negative situations, negative feelings, negative reactions, positive thinking, positive situations, positive feelings, right? If it's so simple, but sometimes we fight it. So that comes into play, especially when you are making phone calls to motivated sellers, especially in today's world when you got to pick up the phone. For some reason, majority of people are scared to death about picking up the phone, calling a homeowner, seeing if they want to sell their house. Then, if you're just doing cash offers, you got to be at a point where you're lowballing them in a way, right? If the house needs a lot of work, or you got to come up with a creative situation and explain it and articulate it to them. And if you're new, that could be very, very intimidating. So you're probably going to struggle doing that. So you're going to tell yourself you're going to struggle. So you probably will struggle, right? Versus sometimes, I don't know what it is for me. I'm nervous. Even to this day, speaking on stage or in a podcast, I get nervous up until the lights turn on, so to speak. Like once it's like record, or once it's like you're about to walk on stage and the mic goes in your hand, it's just like block it out and I just go. And I hope it turns out well. But if you practice and you're practicing your craft and you're going through the repetitions beforehand and you trust in yourself and you have that positive thought, it'll come out positive on stage, right? So, or in that podcast. You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. That's from James Allen of As a Man Thinketh is the book. Highly recommend checking out that book. Very easy, simple read. So you are today where your thoughts have brought you. So if you're not happy or you're not satisfied as to where you're at, that's exactly the same reason I started reading this book. I remember I was working at Verizon Wireless. It was about an hour away from my house, so you had to get ready 2 hours before work to get ready and wrap up and drive an hour to work, and then you're at work for supposed to be 8 hours. You end up being there 9. Then you got to drive an hour back home. So it's like you're 80% of the day you're gone is around this job. So that's why I wasn't happy with the position I was in. I was like, this job is just getting myself and family just getting by. I want more. I know I deserve more. I know I'm better than where I am at, but my thoughts brought me there. The way I thought, the way I dealt with people, the way I handled situations, I knew I needed to do more, and I didn't know what more was, right? It's hard to, so you gotta put yourself in a position of reaching. You're always leaning into something. If you don't feel like I was talking to myself the other day, and it was like, I'm always in a position of nervousness or fear of about something I'm getting myself into. And I'm like, I could easily just not do that. I could easily just not shoot for the stars, right? I could easily not go forward on that idea. I got a routine here in my business. I could probably maintain it and not work as much or work less, or just keep it status quo and get by for a while and not have to worry about that nervousness before an event or a podcast or a new business idea or new investment. But I'm always, and it kind of it takes up a lot of mind space, man, when you're always like, oh my God, this is coming up. Like we had a very big interview today. We interviewed Pace Morby. So, hey man, it is what it is. He's great at what he does, and he's big. He's the biggest educator, investor in our space, and we had him on our podcast. So don't you think I was like, oh man, what am I gonna ask? What am I gonna say? How should I respond if I ask that? And you're running through all these scenarios, and you're like, oh my God, is my engineer gonna be there? Is the cameras gonna work? Are the mics gonna work? You're thinking of all this stuff that's 99% of the time always works. The engineer's always there. The equipment's always working, right? These are always little snags in tech, but and I've done hundreds and hundreds of podcast interviews. Like, why am I even thinking all this shit's gonna go wrong? So then what happened? We did an interview. smooth, easy, great conversation, inspirational conversation. So check out the AZREIA show. It's on YouTube. It's on all podcast platforms. 150 episodes of real estate investing, especially if you're new or intermediate. It's perfect for you. So, what was I thinking? What was I worried for? It was my own head. I just gotta switch that way. So anyways, I brought myself to that situation where I found this book. When I was driving to work, I would listen to Christian radio. Right, I needed to get rid of the music I was listening to and listen to podcasts and different types of messages into my brain, start recreating my thoughts. So that's what you really need to work on, man. That's why I'm doing this book. Tell you the truth, because I feel it changed my life. I feel if I jokingly say, my uncle was a foreman at an apartment complex and used to drink beer and operate heavy machinery, and I thought that's what I was gonna do. Simple as that. So when I'm here in front of you on podcast, making money from real estate investing, the biggest purchase of Americans' lifetime, right, and doing it over and over every day, you just pinch yourself, right? So, but it all started with like this book and making the decision to put better information into my brains and be around people that already have that information or people that are where I want to be. And doing, copying them in a way, right? So then he goes into stomp those ants. He goes, limiting thoughts we hear in our head, ants, automatic negative thoughts. And just like real automatic negative thoughts, ants at a picnic, your ants can ruin your experience of life. The doctor recommends that you learn to stomp the ants. First, you have to become aware of them. Next, you have to shake them off and stomp them, and by challenging them. Finally, you have to replace them with more positive and affirming thoughts. Don't believe everything you hear, even in your own mind, especially the internet, as you're listening to me. But either way, transform that inner critic. Hey, 50,000 thoughts a day, 80% are negative. Can you get to 79%? When you catch yourself dwelling on something or saying something negative about something, just say stop, and reinforce it with something positive. I love my life, right? Something simple, whatever it is. Just, can you get to 79% today, right? Tomorrow, can you get to 78%, right? One day at a time, one step at a time, just like everything else. It takes time. So real estate investing is the long game, right? Day by day, get better as a person, get better as a father, wife, whatever, business owner, whatever you are. One day at a time, little chunks, and ultimately you'll become this person that you'll say, I'm pinching myself. So with all that said, that was episode 31, Transform Your Inner Critic. This is a long chapter, so I'm not going to beat up the point too much. So next one we will be talking about is Transcend Your Limiting Beliefs. That will be the next episode here on YouTube. But like I said, if you're looking to get involved in real estate investing, especially, it doesn't matter where you're at, right? But we're here, the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association, been around for 22 years, supporting all real estate investors, fix and flippers, landlords, hard money lenders, private money lenders, notes, mobile homes, condos, land, you name it, we cover it all. We are your support system. So if you're local in Arizona and you need networking opportunities, you need to meet new people, you need market information, stats, data, so you can make the best decisions within Arizona real estate. Do you need education, right? Do you need the proper education? Do you know how to comp a property? Do you know how to tell what the property's worth? Do you know how to estimate repairs on a property? Do you know how to write an offer? Do you have the contracts? We have all that at some level here for you to work, or we have your team, air conditioner companies, attorneys, title companies, property managers. This is your investing association. We're the most credible, largest association in the country. And check us out, AZREIA.org, AZREIA.org/calendar if you want to see what events we have. We're starting to add more and more online. So, the second Monday of the month, we do our monthly meeting. So it's at Venue 8600 in Scottsdale. So I highly recommend you meet all our business associates. You get education, you get to network. It's a big show. So a lot going on. I could talk about AZREIA just as long as I talked about transforming our inner thoughts. So check us out, AZREIA.org, and check back here. Subscribe, like this post. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll keep putting out this information. Check out the real estate investing information on our page as well. And that's a wrap.